How do you combine parenting with running a creative business?
Well, it's a really interesting question, and from a sort of career point of view, what's interesting is that I pretty much went into business with my business partner Jules Hall at the Hallway when my children were tiny. So my kids are now 15 and 13. I've been in business at the Hallway for 13 years. So they were sort of 2 and 3 when we started. So, in answering this question, it's a lot easier now to be balancing running a business with parenting with 2 teenagers than it was when I had a three and a 2-year-old. And it's also really interesting kind of looking at, in hindsight, what could I have done better if I had my time again, if my kids were now sort of 2 and 3 now, what would I do differently? And it really comes down to just consciously prioritizing, and having an ongoing true sense of what really matters, what's really important. And, my business is super important to me. It does provide for my family, but nothing is more valuable than the time with your kids and being there for those important moments, for the first day at school, the first day at kindy, and not just those kind of milestones, but being there, being present with them in their lives. And that's important to you as a parent, but it's also vital in them growing up as balanced, happy children. And so I'd say it's key, if you have that true north of going, you know what, yes, I've got to make this business successful, but I also need to spend this time with the family. If you've got that in your mind the whole time, then I think the rest sorts itself out and works itself out. What I did, to go in how I dealt with it, I got caught up in the business, and so there are things that I miss. It's not, I'm not filled with terrible regret, but there are definitely times where I'd be receiving these wonderful sort of text messages from my wife showing her and the kids having a lovely time on the beach in Manly, and I was just sort of nose to the grindstone trying to win the next pitch, trying to get the next piece of work out. And you know what? I won some of those pitches, I lost some of them, and actually I could probably have devoted a good proportion more of my time to being there with the family. So I think it's just keep a clear true north, and keep remembering. You hear these wonderful stories of people as they get to the end of their life going, what's the stuff that you really you'd want, if you had your time again, what would you do? No one says I'd have liked to spend more time at work. Everyone says I'd have liked more time with the people that I love, and there's no one that you love more than your kids, so spend the time with them.
Yeah. Ash, there's a giveaway in the background. There might be a child around.
Take care. This question really hit for me, because I have to say that the transition to working parenthood walloped me right off my feet, and I was expecting to just cruise through it, easy breezy, beautiful. It was not easy or breezy or beautiful for me, the rest of my family. I think, I caught myself reading Work, Parent, Thrive last year, because I was like, in fact, I just need work, parent, cope at this point. I just found that I kind of, everything all landed in one space for me. I was working, I was trying to be a good mom, I was trying to be a good partner, and I felt like I was not doing any of my jobs well. And one of the things that I took out of this Work, Parent, Thrive book, I'll share with you, is something that I've implemented this year. And interestingly, because I'm my own case study, I can say, okay, how was last year versus these new changes that I've tried to implement? Is this theme of psychological detachment that is, and similar to what Simon said, where you just are very clear about prioritizing what you're doing and what your main focus is when. So now I've tried to allow myself to work when I'm working and create space and conditions where, you know, my kid is being taken care of, either at daycare or with family in those moments, so I can allow myself to really commit to doing the work that I want to do well. And then when that time is over, I psychologically detach from my work. I allow the laptop to close, you know, the research books to shut, and I shift them over, bring my attention back to my family, to playing with my kids, to having fun, to engaging with him. And honestly, I've found that each of those spheres allow me to refresh from the other. So, you know, sometimes I need a break from mumming. It gets a lot. So I go into work and I'm allowed to be my working self, use my mind, use my creativity, engage with people in the professional space. And then I'm allowed to close that, detach from my work and become mum, you know, be fun, connect with my kid, teach him stuff, show him stuff. Oh, and there's the book right there. Thanks, Andy, for sharing that. But look, there's a lot in there. And I know it's a tough gig, but many of us are doing it. And yeah, I wish you luck with it.
Yeah, it takes a little while, doesn't it, to find that balance and to feel okay with switching off from one or the other.
Yeah.
Right, like I know I've found that. I remember there was a time when I missed my daughter's first steps because a client in Melbourne changed a meeting from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, and so I had to change my flights. And that was when my daughter took her first steps. And that was also the time when I said, nah, never going to let that happen again. And then, but yeah, the guilt bit of not feeling like you're letting someone down, whether it's your family or your colleagues, is the bit to just, start to get comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
There's something, if I may, there's something interesting about what you were just saying around a client changed the meeting. And I think there's a danger often in agency life that the client is kind of almost seen as this sort of all-powerful kind of overlord who's somehow everything has to have the client. And what I've sort of noticed when you actually go back to, well, the client's just a human being who probably also has kids. And so if you've got someone, you know, on your team who's saying, no, it must happen, the client says it, I've often said, you know what, I'll give the client a call.
Yeah.
And go and say, hey, look, I'm really, really sorry, but it's my kid's birthday party or their end of year concert or whatever it is. And the chances are they totally understand. They wouldn't want to miss it for themselves. And there's just some, you know, standard human empathy that means, I mean, of course, there's another spot for that, for the meeting. Of course there will be. That end of year concert or those first steps only happen once. That meeting, there's 8 meeting slots in a day at least. And I'd say 8 or 9 times out of 10, if you have the right conversation with the right person, you can get to the right place.
Absolutely.